Our next guest spent over 30 years in prison for one really bad mistake. He was the son of a single mom. He was in college, but there wasn't extra money to go around. He wanted to make some just like his wealthier friends. And so he, again, did a bad thing. He went on a road trip with some drug dealers. It turned violent. Two men were killed, but Alfonso wasn't even in the room when these murders took place. He was an accessory, faced the same potential sentence as the shooter. And after decades in prison, he finally got a break at clemency that would let him out of prison. And today he is making the most of a second chance by helping others to encourage governors to let people out on clemency. Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what you're going to hear on my podcast, Open Mic. I'm going to tell you things that most lawyers won't tell you. We expose the truth and bring you justice. I want you to go for the win in law and in life.
You want an honest man, but you don't understand. I won't be here when.
So I'd like to welcome Alfonso Riley to Open Mic.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Thanks so much.
So happy you're here. I've read lots of stuff about you. It's a heartbreaking story how long you were in prison, but tell our listeners, tell our viewers about the day that changed your life.
That particular day, Mike, was literally the eve of my 19th birthday. You know, the next day I would have been 19. Like you said, I was a freshman in college. I had opportunities, and I made a very bad decision to go hang out with some friends I know that were, still in the street, that I knew from the neighborhood that I used to live in. At the time, I was living on a college campus, and I knew they were doing things that really I should not have been doing, and I saw the opportunity when I heard about traveling from Brooklyn up to upstate Albany to sell drugs, and I asked to go along, just to like you said, to make a couple of dollars. I was in college, a private college. I didn't have money to like drive around college in the nice cars like my roommates and friends had. So I thought that would provide the opportunity to do so. And it was it was a horrific decision.
Was this the first time you'd been involved in anything like that?
To that degree, yes. I hung around guys who did things. I knew they sold drugs. Did I ever sell drugs myself? No. That was my my first arrest. So I was not experiencing the criminal justice system. I was not experienced much with crime, but like I said, that I came from a neighborhood that was where crime was rampant. So I knew it existed. I, for lack of a better word, flirted with it by just being around those circles.
I assume it was probably sounded like easy money at the time.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, you're going on a ride to transport. What was it? Marijuana? Was it?
It was cocaine. It was cocaine, crack cocaine, and I saw what other guys had who did it often. Those guys I had left in my old neighborhood. And I just thought maybe if I did it once, no more than twice, I might just have something and, get in and get out. But that.
And you were the first person in your family to go to college.
Yes.
It's you were at New York Institute of Technology, and I mean, from what I read, you're a good student, smart kid, and made a dumb decision. So take us through it. You were you the driver? Why were you needed on this drug run?
Well, just I guess a show of support, backup, so to speak, just to not appear, not for those guys to appear alone, and because it was a situation if one or two people appeared to be alone going up there, then they might have felt that they were going to be taken advantage of. So I was there just to show support, muscle, so to speak.
Were you armed?
Um, well, I wasn't armed, no, but the vehicle that we went up in did not have guns, but someone had transported guns up on the bus, the Greyhound, and we picked that person up at the bus station before we went to the drug safe house to make the deal.
So tell me what happened. I know you were on another level when these shootings happened. Tell me what happened.
Okay, if you can just picture, you have a building. It was a 2-story building, but even to get to the first floor, you had to go up a flight of steps. So I mean, it might have been 3 stories, so to speak. And the apartment where the safe house would have been on the 2nd floor. I stayed on the 1st floor. There was 2 of us went up to the 2nd floor and went inside the apartment. And like I said, I stayed downstairs. Probably about 10 to 15 minutes later, I heard gunshots, and I ran to the vehicle that we had parked outside, just to wait for the guys who were upstairs, who came outside, and we fled.
What did you think when you heard gunshots? I mean, you're there to show some support. What went through your head?
Well, old expletive, yeah.
You're allowed to swear on open mic. We pride ourselves in
Okay.
swearing once in a while here.
Okay, so oh shit, so I didn't know that was going to happen, but I learned later that the situation upstairs had turned kind of antagonistic. It went from to what was supposed to be a drug sale to you guys aren't getting anything, and someone took the decision to shoot the 2 men who were in there, who we had come to see.
So you fled. You went back to your houses, your apartments, I guess, right?
Well, we didn't even get that far, Mike.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we didn't get that far because apparently there was there was 2 men in the apartment who were killed, but there were a couple of people who survived and ran off and called the police and gave descriptions of a vehicle that we were in. The vehicle didn't match our vehicle, but we were stopped on the New York State Thruway, headed back to the city. Just stroke of luck on the police's behalf, they got the right vehicle, although they had the wrong description. So they stopped us, and from then on we were in custody.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, how fast did it move? I mean, when did you know that you were being charged with felony murder?
Probably everything moved fast up there, especially for men who were from New York City. We were being told pretty much by the attorneys that we're going to be, that the district attorney planned on making an example of us, and the court planned on making an example of us, that you had New York City kids coming up to Albany, New York in their community and committing murder. So everything moved fast. In New York City, the typical homicide might go to trial after a year and a half, 2 years. We went to trial in 6 months in Albany. Everything happened the same year. The crime, the sentence, the crime, the conviction, and the sentence, all within 1988. So that's light speed compared to like New York.
And, I read through your story, and on open mic, we've had 10 exonerees who've been wrongfully convicted, and later exonerated. Yours is it's a different type of story. It's the fact that you weren't in the room. They charge you with a statute called felony murder, which is no longer in a lot of states like Michigan, because it's so harsh. But yours isn't like that. It doesn't sound like you've ever denied your involvement, or have you? You tell me. Have you ever denied that you were present and what your involvement was?
Well, to be perfectly honest, probably at the pre-trial stages, I denied being willing to go up there to sell drugs. But as things went along, and I just began to accept responsibility for my role in being willing to participate in this planned drug sale, then I accepted that role. And for the most part, that's what it was. It unfortunately turned into an incident with two young men were killed, and like you said, I was charged with felony murder, and I was sentenced as if I committed the homicidal acts, which felony murder allows one to sentence. So I was at that time I was 19 years old. The judge sentenced me to 71 2/3 years to life.
Wow.
Which was essentially a death sentence, where I did not commit the homicidal act by all accounts. And, and felony murder allowed him to do that.
Did the trigger man get the same exact sentence?
No, he had, believe it or not, he got even more. He got even more, and he received more because he was this wasn't his first brush with the law. He was being sentenced as a second felony offender, which allowed him to get a little more than I received.
And so, I mean, it's interesting as we're going through these. So the trial was, did you have a jury trial?
Yes.
And they convicted you as well as all of the other participants?
Yes. Everyone was convicted for varying degrees of involvement, but everyone was convicted. The person that had probably the least conviction was the guy. He was only the driver. He stayed outside as well, but his defense was that he didn't know anything. He was just hired to drive. Right. So, and his lawyer pretty much, made a good defense of that, as he, was able to kind of push blame on everybody else, and had, his client appear as the unwitting participant.
I'm not a criminal defense attorney, but I remember in law school, which was a long time ago, learning about felony murder, and it was a bizarre statute. And I didn't do any research for today's show about felony murder, but my memory is, it was used as a deterrent from being even a bit part in a crime.
Right.
If you drove somebody to a fire they wanted to light an empty house on fire, and that empty house had a person in it, and that person was killed. The driver gets the same sentence or gets the same charges as the person who intentionally lit the fire. And even if the person said, I was only trying to burn down the house, I didn't want to kill anybody, I didn't want to hurt anybody, but somebody was in there, that's like a felony murder type situation. That's just a weird example that came to me. It has nothing to do with you, but I'm
Right.
trying to illustrate for our listeners
And
and viewers. Does that sound about right?
yes, that is. I can give you another example. One I just read about today, Mike. It was a situation, case in Alabama where a 15-year-old kid, him and one or two other friends went and they burglarized a couple of homes, and the police came, and the police chased them, and the police shot the friend, one of the perpetrators of the crime, and the surviving defendant was sentenced as a 15-year-old. When the case happened, he was sentenced to 65 years for the homicide that the police called, where the police shot his friend under felony murder. So and although they didn't have, I mean, it was clear and admitted clear that the police shot the friend, but the law allowed for him to be charged with his friend's murder as if he did it. And he was sentenced to 65 years.
Yep. It's a nut statute, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're sentenced to 71 years. You're coming right from college, probably a decent dorm at a good university. I mean, the change. I mean, can you even describe going from a college campus the next week you're in jail and then prison for 30 plus years? I mean, can you try to describe that for us?
I guess to say it's a culture shock is an understatement, but I'll say that for lack of a better description right now. It was definitely something, for somebody at my age at the time. Didn't know what was going on. And somewhere in my mind, I believed I would, make it back. In fact, Mike, when I was arrested, I thought, I had my school books with me. Actually had my knapsack, because I thought that after we made this deal, I would make it to the class that I had that evening. So
Wow.
that's what was going on.
That is that's bizarre.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I,
sad. That's really sad too.
I was arrested and convicted in prison, one of the more violent maximum security prisons in New York at the time, where it was loosely termed gladiator school because of the number of cuttings and stabbings that went on a daily basis. So I went there, and I just made the best out of a bad situation. I told myself that I was gonna do the time and not let the time do me, as I fight to kind of lessen my sentence or appeal my sentence in some way.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because one of the things that I noted when I was reading your history and researching for this interview was um, was all of the things that you did while in prison. I mean, you basically thought it was a death sentence, and it very well could have been. And you got a associate's degree, you got a bachelor's degree, you got a paralegal degree, you earned data processing certificates, you worked in the law library, you volunteered in the children's center, you spoke to young people, and one of the more fascinating things is that you became a chess champion. So to say you made the most of your time is an understatement, really. I mean, that's really unusual. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, for the most part, I looking back at it, I will admit that at the time, that was my life. It allowed me to cope especially doing things that were a little more positive and conducive to my own development. Yeah.
The
So
only thing you're missing there is a law degree.
the only thing I'm missing is a lawyer. I'm working on that now.
Don't lie to me. Are you really?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you in law school?
Well, no. I'm studying for the LSAT now.
Congratulations. Wow. That's exciting.
Yes.
Well, if you ever need a job and you want to come to Detroit, let me know.
Okay.
That's really impressive. Really impressive. Let's talk about the chess champion. I mean, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but you learned how to play chess while in prison. Did you ever play before that?
Well, I learned how to play chess good while in prison. I learned how to make the moves and how to move the pieces move while I was home. But I was never really good at it.
Who taught you?
A guy in the neighborhood. The guy just, you want to play chess? Hey, yeah, you seem like a thinker. You're a smart guy. You should learn how to play chess.
Who taught you how to play good in prison?
Pretty much myself. I read the books. I bought the books. I, read the book. I learned chess notation. I read the books. I studied the books back and forth. I would lay out the chessboard, and just go through the books, go through puzzles.
What's your standard opening move?
Well, on defense, I like the Sicilian, right? And if I'm playing offense, white, I might, start basically. If I'm playing basic Gioco Piano.
And what do you think about the Queen's Gambit?
Well, I did watch the Queen's Gambit, and
isn't that a move, the Queen's Gambit?
Yes, it is a move. Yes.
I was trying to sound smart and pretend like I knew what that meant, but I don't know what that means. But I know it's a move, and I did watch the show too. What did you think of the show?
The show was good. The show was good, and it kind of reminded me of how obsessed a person can get with chess. And it's while playing chess, I kind of stayed away from that a lot because I played what's referred to as correspondence chess a lot, for people around the country, and we literally made moves by sending through postcard. Right. So
come on, wait. Through the mail, this is your move. This is your move, and it would take weeks in between moves.
U.S. Postal Service. It usually takes about a week going and coming, right? On a postcard. Those old-fashioned things. Yes.
And you would keep the game board in your cell?
Yeah, you keep the board, but I played maybe like 6 games at a time. So you would have a pad with the notations of each move for where you're at in each game.
So you could reset it up if you need to.
Exactly. And
wow.
what happens is at some point, probably usually midway through or probably around the 6th to 8th move, you already know in your head how each game is set up, right? And I might wake up in the middle of the night in the shower and say, "Oh, that's okay. If this person does this, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this," and then I might set the board up real quick to see if it plays out that way, or I might be in the shower and come up with things like that. So I say that to say that obsession that depicted in Queen's Gambit that can come true.
It's really interesting. Are you still playing?
Not as much as I did, but I'm still playing more computer.
Have you ever played in a championship or won anything?
Yeah. I've won a couple of trophies, mainly in a certificate in U.S. Chess Federation sponsored tournaments.
That's great. That is great. All right, let's talk about your clemency.
Okay.
And for our listeners and viewers who don't know the difference between a pardon and clemency, do you want to take a stab at that since you're probably an expert at it?
Okay, there's with inclemency, there's something called a commutation of sentence, right? Which is what I receive. And a commutation of sentence is when the governor recognizes that while incarcerated, you attain what's referred to as extraordinary achievements, and he wants to commute your sentence or reduce your sentence to make you immediately eligible for parole, and that's a form, a type of clemency, and that's the type of clemency that I received. So at the time when my sentence was commuted or reduced, I had 30 years in, and this decision was made by the governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, and I was informed of that decision in 2018, New Year's Eve, the day before, when it turned 2019, and that was just like the day that I was waiting for,
So how did you get the governor's attention? I've read some statistics. He's got about 7,000 clemency petitions sitting on his desk just for New York
Right,
prisoners.
right.
He's only let out less than 20.
Right.
How did you get his attention?
So I became eligible to file for clemency in 2013, and one becomes eligible when she gets half of his sentence in, and half of it was 2013 when I had 25 years in. Oh, let me reduce it, because initially we said I was sentenced to 71 years to life, right? Now that sentence was reduced by the appeals court in New York to 50 years to life. So for the majority of my sentence, I was being sentenced to 50 years to life. And when appellate court made that decision to reduce the sentence to 50 years to life from 71 years, they didn't do so because that I was a first-time felony offender, or because I was a college student when it occurred, or because I was only 18 or 19 years old that it occurred, or that I was trying to do something about my life. All of that was ignored. They reduced it because they said that the judge erroneously ran some of the sentences consecutive, right? So they ran the sentences concurrent, and when they ran it concurrent, it came to 50 years to life. So, right. So in 2013, when I had half of that time in, I applied for clemency, and I did that myself, right? So the request sat in the governor's office for 4 years without being answered, from 2013 to 2017. And in 2017, I got a decision saying from the governor's office saying, well, we're not going to consider it at this time. Try again next year in the year. So what I decided to do when preparing for the second application to get assistance, so I was writing around to different law firm, legal organizations, what have you, to ask, for some help for someone who might make or, present a better package for me, make a better request, a pitch to the governor's office. And there's a program at CUNY Law School, run by Professor Steve Zeidman and some other law professors. Well, they have a clemency clinic there, and they agreed to help me, and they assigned 2 wonderful law students to assist me. And their team just put together a great package. They interviewed me. They did a video interview. They called a clinical psychologist who came in and interviewed me for a couple of days to do what's referred to as a risk assessment, and to determine that if released, what risk did I pose to society? And that clinical psychologist, her conclusion was ultimately that I pose, the least risk than any person she ever, interviewed. So, all of that became part of the clemency package.
Yeah.
And also one other fact that they found out while investigating this whole case is that the judge who sentenced us, to all of that time had a competition with the only other criminal judge in that court, because there was only two of them, and two of them had a competition on who would give out the most time before they retired.
Yeah,
And,
I read about that. That is the most insane, sickening thing that I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So the two criminal judges in the courthouse had a contest, maybe a bet, maybe they treated it like a game.
Yeah.
Who could give more time than
Right.
the other guy, and they had some kind of contest.
Right.
Never heard of this before.
Right.
And so this became public. The judges knew about it, or the Court of Appeals judges. People commented on this. This is in briefs, right?
Well,
this is not just rumor.
This is not rumor. When my assistants from CUNY began to look in it, they interviewed the actual district attorney of my trial. At my trial, the assistant district attorney as well as my trial attorney, and both of them said, "Yeah, that was common knowledge." So yeah, we know what's going on. That was common knowledge, but at that time, nobody, sought to kind of ruffle the feathers, so to speak.
And I assume, and I don't know this, but I'm going to make a guess that they've never been disciplined. They're probably still both on the bench, or maybe they're died by now because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But they were never disciplined or anything
No.
like that.
No.
There's very, very. I mean, I don't know the statistics, but judges, as dirty as some may or may not be, as prosecutors, as dirty as some of it may be, the holding them accountable is nearly impossible. They are immune, and it's reprehensible. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, and I'm sorry they were your judges. And I don't know what a normal, fair judge would have sentenced you, but it sure sounds like it would have been less.
Right.
So you had some great people who got the judges, who got the governor's attention. You get this news on New Year's Eve. What a celebration. I mean, I'm sure you didn't have much champagne in prison, but I'm sure you wish you did. You wish you had it.
Yes.
That is very exciting. So it's been what, 2.5 years. It hasn't even been that long.
Yeah.
And you found out, and then I heard you had to wait 4 weeks in prison until they finally let you out, even though the governor said let him out.
Right.
That had to have been excruciating.
Very long 4 weeks. Very long 4 weeks. Without knowing what was going on. The only thing I was called, and and the news was given to me by the warden, was referred to as the superintendent in New York of the prison, and read the email from the governor's office, and that was it. The only other thing, I would hear things from the that was going on in the media or the news about it, but it was like prison staff. Nobody had anything to say more about it. When I would be released, I really didn't know until probably like the day before, just when I was going to be released.
And you've been out 2.5 years. Tell me what you've been doing. What are you up to? How's life?
Life is good. Life is good. We on the way out, I said, the worst day out here is far better than the best day inside. So it's like I often find myself have a very different idea of things or perception than my friends who've never experienced what I've experienced, because I sometimes, when we might face challenges or complications on this side, and just think, things can be worse. You know,
Ab- Absolutely. And so tell me, what are you doing to keep busy now?
well, I'm a paralegal case handler in the Legal Aid Society of New York. I work, in the wrongful conviction unit, and we look at cases, we investigate cases of possible wrongful convictions, and through that investigation, hope to work towards exonerating people.
It's
We have,
fabulous. Any success so far?
yes, we've had a couple of successes. We're a new unit, actually. I was like one of the first hired of the unit. The unit just started in May of 2019, in fact, and we've had success case of well, the client's name Carlos Weeks, another one of James Davis, and we working on many more that we have in our queue.
What a perfect job for you. I mean, how lucky are these guys to have you looking at their cases, someone who cares, someone when you get that letter saying I'm innocent, what a better person than you to look at that and take it seriously and research it. I'm really impressed. I also heard that you got married while in prison in 2014 and not knowing if you were ever going to get out, right? You got
Right.
married in 2014 and you're still married and you're living with your wife now?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much, man.
That's really exciting. I'm so happy that things are going well for you. Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck in law school. And if you ever want to bring one of your exonerees on open mic and do an interview and get some publicity for the great work you guys are doing and to teach the public about the ills of our criminal justice system and what happens when people get wrongfully convicted or where there's a bad lineup or there's a bad ID or there's a bad judge or prosecutor, that's the stuff we do here. And I'd love to have you back on the show.
Okay, thanks. I'll look to take you up on that.
Anytime, anytime. Well, it was super nice to meet you,
Nice
and
to meet you as well.
keep in touch.
All right. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
what a nice guy, Alfonso Riley. Really, I'm impressed with what he did in prison, and look how it's serving him now. The fact that he's out and he's working on the Legal Aid Society, going to law school, married. Um, it's that part of it's a good story. So if you know anybody who needs to hear a show like this, who'd be moved by this, who's maybe dealing with something similar, send them this podcast, subscribe, like, comment, let us know the types of things you'd like to hear on open mic. And we really appreciate you listening and watching. And we look forward to seeing you next time.